Students of Success, Dr. Mike here. Today we are going to be talking about adding value. How do we add value to an organization? When we talk about value, we're not talking about the value of the human being that you are. We're not talking about how valuable you may be to your church, how valuable you are to your school, to your family, to anything like that. We are talking primarily, specifically, on how valuable you are to the marketplace. We get paid based upon the value that we bring to the market. We don't get paid based upon our personality. We don't get paid based upon who we are. We get based upon that value that we bring. You could be the nicest person in the world, have all of the right intentions. Doesn't mean anything to the economy. Doesn't mean anything to the market. If you are not bringing specific value, now being a nice person and having good traits and manners and things like that are valuable and can help you in certain positions. But you can also be a very nice person and be flipping burgers at McDonald's. It doesn't mean that you are bringing much value to the marketplace. You're bringing about $8 worth of value, as opposed to maybe a CEO of a corporation or a manager or in a career position that you're adding more value, so you get paid more. Okay, so that's where it starts. So we're talking about how valuable are you? What does valuable mean? Like I just said, it's the skills and the attitudes and the things that you bring. And the more valuable you are, the more money you are going to make. So why should I do more than I'm paid for? Here's a big one right here that I see a lot. I specifically seen it a lot in the school district that I was a board member in. I see it from teachers. I see it from different workers. I saw it from the businesses I had. People think that if you're not paying me to do something specifically in writing, I'm not going to do it. That it goes all the way down to a piece of paper on the floor to any single thing. If the job starts at 8 o'clock in the morning and ends at 4, then they are showing up at 7:59 and they are leaving at 4:01. If they even get there that early and stay that late. Most of the time, those people were late and leave early. So how would you expect in a position like that of the minimal value that you are putting into it to be paid more for what you do? Basically, you do more than what you're paid to do, so you'll be paid more for what you do. So think about it. If there was a chance of a promotion or a raise or something like that, who do you think they're going to give it to? The person that shows up 1 minute before work and rushes out the door as soon as the end of the bell at the day ends? Or are they going to give it to that person that shows up an hour early, stays an hour late, volunteers for extra things, picks up that piece of paper in the hallway? Because let me tell you something, being a business owner for 25 years, I can tell you, just like a mother, the boss sees everything. The owner sees everything. Even if you don't see them, they know what's going on at all points in time. And you might be like, I haven't seen this guy for weeks. Trust me, word gets back, things get said. The person that you are radiates. And if you're one of those kind of people that are adding more value, that's when you're going to get paid more. Now, if you're in a position, say like a school teacher, that you're all on the same level, that's a whole different ball game because that just breeds laziness and contempt and things like that. But in the main part of the world, people that are doing more than they're being paid for, eventually, because what will happen if that boss, that business will not pay you more, there's 100 other ones out there that will pay you more. So you start to develop a competitive advantage against the people that are in your organization. And once you do that and you become that valuable, the MVP, either they're going to have to pay you more or somebody else will steal you away. Also, competition for your job. Think about it. I know there's a lot of low level. They say we can't find people to work these days, but those are mostly the lower level jobs, the entry level positions. There is, if you go to apply for any type of a management job in a sports world or in business, there's going to be potentially 100 applicants for a position. I see it right now. I've talked to people that are in the Florida market, especially with new sports teams and stuff. They're getting 100 applicants. Okay. So there is competition out there for your job. There are universities are graduating thousands and thousands of people every year. So when you get that job, is the starting point. It is not the end point. Every single day, you need to be building that value that you bring to the marketplace. You don't just get the job and say, okay, I'm done, because you can very easily be replaced. Job security and promotion. Think about it. Recession happens. Who are the first people they're going to let go? Their most valuable people, or the ones that are just slacking and just getting by? It doesn't matter if you've been there for 10 years, the other person's only been there for a year. If you're the slacker, you're gone. So you need to have some job security. And the best way to do that is to be adding the most value to the business under any situation, any circumstance. You can't wait until all of a sudden there's a recession or jobs are being cut and you're like, oh, then you start. The value is being built and added all along the process. Same thing with promotion. Like I just mentioned, if there comes a chance for a promotion in a business, who do you think they're going to give it to? The guy who has seniority or the guy that's adding the most value? Unfortunately, there are some things in this world with some different hiring practices that sometimes the people that aren't the most qualified are getting into them. But for the most part, it's the ones that are the most qualified that are getting it. And we're just going to operate under those circumstances and under that thought process that the people that are the highest valued are the ones that are getting those positions. If we start to think that no matter how hard I work, I'm never going to be able to make it because I'm not the right race, I'm not the right color, I'm not the right gender, I'm not this. That's all garbage. Throw that out the window. We can't be thinking that way. Every day, just keep adding value, because if you don't get it from that company, you're going to get it somewhere else. Builds confidence and job security. There's nothing better than going to a job, working all day, and actually feeling good at the end of the day, like you actually made a difference. And there's nothing worse than going to a job all day that you absolutely hate. At the end of the day, you're like, it wouldn't have mattered if I lived or if I died, because it was just a useless day and a useless job. So do your very best work. I don't care if it's flipping burgers, French fries at a fast food place, because you need to build those skills. You don't just decide one day I want to become a valuable employee. These are soft skills that are built over time. It's not something you just turn on. It starts all the way in school. It starts on giving your best effort, giving your best work with sports, with your education, with those entry-level jobs. That's why entry-level jobs are not supposed to be $30 an hour. They're supposed to be entry-level for training. You add more value with those things. You're not supposed to be there for 20 years at McDonald's. Those are just supposed to teach you the skills to be able to move up the ladder. Here's a analogy here that I use. I live in Western Pennsylvania, and there's lots of corn around. There's lots of deer around. And I was thinking this the other day was about when you add value to something, you get a return. So when you sow, you reap. And then I did a little bit of research on corn because, like I say, there's cornfields all over the place. So I call it the law of adding value. So if you take an ear of corn, and you could use this for trivia because I didn't know this until I looked it up, even though that I've lived with this for 50 years. When you take an ear of corn, how many ears of corn do you think are on a stalk? That's one stalk. So you see that whole entire field, and you look at a stalk. So there's two ears typically on a stalk. Now let's take each kernel of corn. Now remember, when the farmer planted that field, he put one kernel of corn in the ground that grew that stalk. So his investment was one kernel plus tilling the ground and more things we'll get into, but he started with one kernel. And as he went on, when that corn was harvested with those 2 years, there are between 800 and 1,000 kernels per ear of corn. So with that one kernel of sowing investment, they reaped almost 2,000 kernels. So it's a 1 to 2,000. So what I'm saying is you have to plant before you harvest. The farmer does not say, nature, God, if you give me a big harvest of 2,000 kernels of corn, I'll plant next year. You have to plant. It's the same way in your career about adding value. You must put in the work. You must go to work early. You must stay late. You must volunteer for things. You must pick up that piece of paper on the floor. You must do all these things before you can reap that bonus, that higher pay, that promotion, that all those things come after you plant. And then you must nourish the seed the entire time you're there. How do you nourish the seed? If you think about it, think about it in your career, how you might nourish the seed. Networking, conferences, resumes, make sure your LinkedIn page is good. How do you write your emails, your cover letters, your professional development? All of these things along the path. Picking up that piece of paper on the floor, it's like you're fertilizing your career as you're going along. You're doing all of the things that are right. Like I said, you're showing up. You're just showing up. I've owned several businesses, and if the person showed up, walked through the door at the time they were supposed to be there, I felt like that was 90% of the victory. And that's a real shame in this environment that we're in this country of abundance. It takes time. Also, don't think that because you go in and you do pick up that piece of paper, you do come in early, you do volunteer for something, the next week you're going to all of a sudden be rewarded for it. Okay. It's not how it works. You have to be able to take time, and it'd be like the farmer planting the kernel of corn, then next week digging it up, wondering why isn't it growing? And you keep messing with it. That'll like going to your boss. When am I getting that raise? When am I getting that promotion? Is there anything coming up? Well, you've only been here for a week. So it does take time. And you always reap more than you sow. Just like the analogy of the corn, you put one kernel in, you do the little things. How much does it cost you to show up a little early? And I really emphasize this showing up early and staying late and volunteering for things. They are zero cost to that. That is like an investment in your future. Just those little things like that. Show up early, stay a little bit late, volunteer to do extra things, and don't expect to pay. And that right there, you will reap way more. $1 is more than it would cost you for that. That could mean the difference in that promotion of $10, $20, $30,000. I don't know. Maybe going from no benefits to benefits, part-time to full-time, over just doing the free things. And you must keep planning throughout your career. One thing I can tell you that whenever you do get a job, the last thing that you want to do is end your job search. You should always be looking on your LinkedIn page, on your resumes, on Indeed, all those sites. You should always have your hands out there, your fingers, just your little feelers out there, looking to see what opportunities are there. Because if you are in a job and you do see a good opportunity and you go in and you tell your boss you've been working hard, say, listen, this other opportunity came up and I'm really thinking about going. And if you are valuable, they'll be like, I want to counter that because I don't want to lose you because you're very valuable. But if you don't keep looking for things like that, it's never going to put them in that type of a position. So how can I become the MVP, the most valuable person on the job? Have a positive attitude. These are all things that are absolutely free. There's nothing worse than having a person come in that's just negative, nasty, complaining all day long. It's like those people, if they do get anything extra, it's because there's a weak leadership and they give in to them because they just want them to shut up and go away and stop bugging them. And that is very bad. If that's the type of leader that you're working for, you may want to start moving on because it creates such a divide in the culture that those type of people, and if you are in a leadership position, I can tell you, you got to stomp that out right away. If people are trying to bully you by uh, just being negative and nasty and trying to get you to do things, if you don't stop that right away, it will infest and contaminate your entire staff. And then they will stop doing things because they're like, I don't want to be a bitcher. I don't want to be a complainer. But it looks like that's the only way you're going to get it around here. So those people will either disengage or you're just going to create more of that same type of problem with a lot more people. That would be necessarily good. Organized, same thing. Make sure you stay organized. I always say a messy desk is a messy mind. If you're ever in a job interview and after the interview, no matter how well it goes, if they walk you out to your car, there's a reason that they're doing that. And the reason that they're doing that is to look inside your car. Because if they go out there and they walk you out to your car and your car is filled with trash, you just lost your opportunity. So if there's anything you remember from this presentation right here, remember that one thing right there, because there's a good chance if you're, I'm not saying if you're a McDonald's job, but if you're at a management level job or in something they're really going to count on you to be an organized type person, they're going to look, because if you can't organize your car, you can't keep your car clean, how in the heck are they going to put you on a project? If you can't keep your desk clean, if you can't dress appropriately, how you gonna expect to do anything? Be honest. Whenever I say about being honest, I'm not just talking about being honest with people. I'm not being honest with yourself. Don't be disillusioned. Don't lie to yourself that you think you're doing enough. Be honest. Is there more that you could be doing in this job to add more value? Show powerful dedication. Like I said, if there is something extra, something for charity, something that needs donated, something that to do a little extra to organize something at work, volunteer for it. Even if you're not getting paid, think of it as like you're putting money in the bank. It's like an investment. And like I said, you're putting that money in there. And maybe that employer won't allow you to withdraw it, but that money stays in there because you're building that skill set. And other people will see you. It is so hard to find good people today. So even if you see a business and you're like, oh, they're not hiring, they're hiring. They're hiring good people. They're not hiring just in general. They're hiring good people because it's very hard to find good people that will work. We talked about the Pareto principle, 80-20. It should be about 90-10. You know, 10% of the people do 90% of the work on the job. And they're looking for that top 10%. Every organization, every business is looking for that percent. Mentor colleagues. Don't ever be afraid of somebody else taking your position. If it's a good organization, they should be trying to breed leadership, breed leaders. They want to be able to, if they can't, you can't expect to move into an upper position or a leadership position and then develop those skills. You need to be developing as you're moving on. So if you're in a small group, don't be afraid of sharing. Don't be afraid of stepping up and leading, because those are the skills that are needed to get to that next level. Makes you more valuable. Consistently improve and develop. If there's a conference, if there's something, if there's a course, anything that you can possibly do, make sure you take advantage of it. Be creative, come up with ideas, take initiative, stay motivated. You know, there's one thing, there's motivation, there's discipline. You are not going to be motivated on your job every single day. I can guarantee you that. It will come down to discipline. Who is actually going to do the job, and develop personal relationships all the time. So with that said, before we get on to the next one, I just want to tell everybody, just remember there's one thing, is that there are only so many tomorrows. So add as much value as you can today, so tomorrow you can reap that harvest in your career. Take care.